Hello, and welcome to Analytic Endeavor's first live stream. I'm joined here with Sid. Sid, why don't you tell us what you're going to be talking about today?
Sure. Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Sid. I'm a technical program manager with Microsoft. Today, we're going to be talking about the experience of semantic modeling as code. So we're going to be talking about TMDL, the Tabular Model Definition Language, and how you can use it as a semantic model representation and work with it in a code editing environment.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And just to let everyone know, this is Analytic Endeavor's live stream. We're streaming to a few places. So Analytic Endeavors is a company co-founded by myself and Reed Havens. So if anybody is watching somewhere else on one of the other channels, please hop over to the Analytic Endeavors YouTube, and you see the link at the bottom. From here, you'll be able to use live chat, and you'll be able to interact with myself and Sid directly. So if you're watching on another place, join on over on the Analytic Endeavors. Reed unfortunately is away today on vacation, but it's me and Sid here talking about one of my favorite topics, TMDL and the VS Code editor. So Sid, really happy for you to join us. Thank you so much. Why don't you just give us a little introduction, and we'd love to hear a bit about you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great to be here, Steve. And yeah, so I'm a technical program manager with Microsoft. I'm here as a representative of the product team to talk to you about one of our features that we released very recently, which is a feature that I own, which is the TMDL extension for VS Code. So I'm very happy to be here on behalf of the product team and on behalf of the team that built the extension. So I'm excited to talk to you about it and talk to you about how we can use it to help your experience as a Power BI developer just improve from what it was before.
Very cool. And yeah, interested to hear a bit about your background and how long you've been at Microsoft, what you've been doing before that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually joined Microsoft about a year ago. And prior to that, I was actually more of a technical guy myself. I worked at a few software engineering experiences, and I did my master's in machine learning. And so I actually made the shift over to the product team and to working in the product management area, which we define at Microsoft as program management. And I just love the role. So that's why I'm here where I am today. But because of my technical background, I still do love focusing on developer experiences and the experience for pro users who do like to work with things as code.
Yeah, I think we've seen this come a lot in the last few months to a year. Those developer experiences really be added into Power BI, something that I know hasn't necessarily always been there. And a lot of people have been asking this for a very long time, I think, and it feels like we've made great progress in the last, I would say, even 6 months to a year on some of that really good developer experiences, talking specifically about things like editing Power BI's code, doing source control, all that kind of stuff.
No, absolutely. And a lot of this is from the great work of one of my colleagues that I respect greatly, Rui Romano as well. Just incredible experiences being put out right now. Power BI desktop developer mode, TMDL, Tabular Model Definition Language, the Git workspace integration, and the TMDL extension for Visual Studio Code. All of this is part of our efforts as the Power BI product team to start really listening to what developers want and what developers need.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited. I think this is something that I've seen a lot of people start using. So with that, I think if we want to get over and we can start having a chat and see what we're talking about today.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's shift on over to the slides.
Perfect. And then again, if anyone's still tuning in late, if anyone's coming in, this is a joint stream here. So if you're looking at maybe Havens Consulting or one of our other channels, join over at the Analytic Endeavors YouTube channel. That way you'll be able to ask questions and join in. So with that, let's get started. Over to you, Sid.
Perfect, Steve.
Now let's get into the core of today's experience, which is the idea of semantic modeling as code. And so when we are already talking about semantic modeling as code, because TMDL is basically a code-like representation of the information behind your semantic model, we need a format, or we need a way to work with that. And usually what we do to work with code is we use a code editor. And one of our favorite code editors is Visual Studio Code. So we're pleased to announce that as of a couple of weeks ago, we're in public preview for the TMDL extension for Visual Studio Code, which is experience we've built to allow you to work with your TMDL files in the most productive manner possible by unlocking all these typical code editing experiences that we're going to show you right here. So first, let's just take a step back and look at what the TMDL of your semantic model looks like without the TMDL extension in VS Code. This is something you can do right now. You can go ahead and open your PBIP semantic model folder and choose a TMDL file and look at it in VS Code right now. And it's going to look like this. There's no coloring, there's no fancy features. It's just you have your TMDL representation of a table. And right here, it already looks pretty good. I mean, you have your table, you have an indent, all your child objects for your table, your columns, and then the properties for those columns indented on another level. It is parsable right now, but it doesn't look great. It doesn't look like what you'd expect out of a code editing experience. So if we go ahead and pop up the TMDL extension for Visual Studio Code and hit install, what that will do once it lights up is it will start applying those rich language editing features to the TMDL that you're working with. So first thing you can see already is semantic highlighting, which basically colors your code, colors the different token types based on what you're looking at. So your objects are all colored a certain way. The tables, the columns, partitions are all colored in one way. The object names are colored another way, calendar, date, year, and so on and so forth. And then the object properties, like underneath the column, format string, colored a certain way, and the property values are colored a certain way. It just makes it so much easier and just looks, honestly, a lot better to work with it in this format. The second feature that the TMDL extension will unlock is autocomplete or IntelliSense, as you may understand. And this, initially, it just helps you save time. It allows you to autocomplete the tokens as you're typing. It's something that, as developers, you may have instinctively gotten used to as you write code. And we're happy to say that it's here as well. But one more thing it does specifically with TMDL is it's sort of a learning aid as you begin to understand how you can work with your TMDL. If you go and you have a property, you need to find out what property values are available there. All you have to do is hit Control Space to trigger the autocomplete, and you'll see all the available values that are valid for TMDL. If you're confused about what properties you could have underneath an object, then do the same thing. You can just hit Control Space after you tabbed, and it will display the available object properties that you can work with. So it's not just a time saver, but it's also a learning tool, which is great. We also have another super useful feature, which is error diagnostics. And this is something that you'll see in a lot of code editing experiences that's just super valuable. Before you even have to run your code, in quotations, because when you are running TMDL, it's really just you're serializing it to the actual model and service. But what you're going to have here is, instead of having to go through that process of uploading your code through Git and having an error that spits back at you when you view that model and service, you can just look at these simple errors now caused by small mistakes you might be making while working in a code-like environment. If you have any spelling errors or other syntactical errors, these will be caught immediately. So you can see for example, median is not one of the properties, and this helpful error message here shows you what are the possible property values here. So it's just great to have all this. So those are the general features you'll get just with the extension itself. But operating within Visual Studio Code, you're working within a platform. And that platform has plenty of other tools, which is just going to make your experience so much greater. And the first one of those is Git Integration. It's that source control tab in VS Code that allows you to have that version control and collaboration, which are core tenets of TMDL and why we've built the language the way we have. So what does it look like? Well, if you look over here, once we click on the source control tab, off to the left, you'll see what the changes you've made are. Comparing the version that you're currently on to the previous version, you'll see that for here, for example, if you look at the editor pane, you've added 2 new measures, and those are highlighted in green. Whereas previously, you don't have those measures, and you've also made a slight modification to the measure above. So viewing things in a diff like this is great for version control. You get to see exactly what changes are made, comparing the version that's already up there in Git with what you're currently working on right now. It's going to help you track changes much easier. And if you're working in a large team in a very collaborative environment, This might be painted in reds and greens, this entire file, and it'll just make it so much easier to work with. Just for reference, this is what this git diff looked like before when we worked with TMDL. So much more difficult to understand exactly what's going on, where those changes are, compared to what we have in TMDL. So let's talk about another tool, and this is something that a lot of us experience in VS Code and really like about VS Code right now, especially with the latest benefits that we're seeing from Copilot. And that's the power of GitHub Copilot here. You might think that GitHub Copilot doesn't have an understanding of TMDL, so it might not be able to help. But that's actually what we found that to be. We found that not to be the case, actually. We found it to actually be very helpful in automating certain tasks that are painstaking for us to do ourselves as Power BI developers or those working with TMDL. Let's take a look at a quick example there. So here we see a very nice use case. This was given to us by John Kursky, so thank you very much, another community contributor. What this is it's a prompt to have Copilot act as a assistant that helps comment Power Query code. This is something that you may not want to do by yourself, especially if there's tons of Power Query expressions embedded inside the TMDL representation of your model. And what you can just do is send this prompt through, let Copilot work its magic, and your Power Query is commented. And all you have to do is review the outputs and make sure that it is accurately reflecting what you want to say. And that's another very cool thing about the community itself and about the power of Copilot here, which is that we can share prompts with each other. There's going to be a lot of tasks which we find cumbersome to do ourselves, and we can just write our prompts. We can make those work for ourselves. We can also share those with the community. So I'm very excited to see what comes out of the community here. So I think now that we've walked through some of the capabilities, it might be time for a demo.
Very, very cool. I think very much see a lot of the use here. That Copilot's very cool feature, I think. Commenting is one thing I know a lot of us don't do it enough, and probably not always the most fun thing to go through and comment your code. So helping with a tool like Copilot and to be able to edit the model directly, that's a really interesting thing there. I'm going to try out straight after this, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And one super cool thing with Copilot, exactly the vision I was talking to Rui about this before, which is that we have a pretty strong community, and it's a community that's very active and that provides resources to others within the community. So imagine just a repository of Copilot prompts that help you do all sorts of things with your semantic models, potentially declare explicit measures, comment Power Query DAX, just basically help you automate a lot of these different tasks. And it's just the community helping out the community. So I'm just excited to see what will happen out of this. And potentially, hopefully, we can release some prompts on our side and occasionally give you guys some hints as to what might be some Google use cases for this.
Yeah, sure. I can see repositories and people building up those prompts. And I think things like those menial tasks of commenting and doing those very repetitive, but maybe the easier ones where you just need to add some comments and stuff like that, I see it being very, very strong in those areas, especially. And the time-consuming ones.
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and share a screen. I've got everything ready and set up for our demo.
Excellent.
The main part of our presentation. So how's this, Steve? You see you see my Power BI workspace?
Yeah, perfect. Just gonna take our cameras off and we can go.
All right. Perfect. The first thing I'm going. Okay.
You just broke up a little. If you want to just turn off your camera.
First thing I'm going to do, actually, let's go ahead and turn our cameras off.
Yep, there you go.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Right there. Perfect. Everything all good? Audio clear?
Sounds good. Great.
All right then. Perfect. So first thing I'm going to do here is open up Power BI Desktop. And while we wait on that to pop up, I will we'll talk real quick about what we see in the workspace here. So the core of this is going to be going over to workspace settings and linking to Git integration. So I want to start off this demo by kind of showing the usage of TMDL along with another powerful developer feature, which is the Git integration, because these two are going to play together incredibly well for you to edit your semantic models and see those changes appear in service. So let's go ahead and link it up to our repository. Let's see. Perfect. Power BI desktop actually loaded already. So I'm just going to click blank report, use sample data, because we're just going to use the sample data for this tutorial, which is going to be a very simple one that really just helps you get an idea of what's possible. Everyone is going to be looking at this and going to think about, and that's essentially what I want to do. Make sure that everything is simple here so you can think about how it applies to your particular situation. Let's see, we'll connect to the financial sheet, load that up. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and actually publish this report, which just blank report with the financials demo semantic model. We'll connect that. We'll call this analytics endeavors demo financials. And we'll save that. Let's publish it to our workspace. I think there it is. TMDL extension, analytics endeavors. All right, we are good to go over there. So what you'll see is, if I refresh the page, give it a quick second. Perfect. Our report and semantic model are uploaded and up to date. So if I go to workspace settings here and I click Git integration, we have an option to connect to a Git provider here. And I'm going to use, so I'm going to go over to my files, to my repositories, and you see that I just have a blank repository right now. Nothing is set up. In fact, I will actually just go ahead and initialize it right now. So I'm just going to initialize it. And this just shows you we're absolutely starting from scratch here. This is something you can do yourself. So we go back to Power BI. Let's connect to Azure DevOps, sign in, go over to my TMDL extension demo, go to Analytics Endeavors. This is just the name of the project I have up here. Click this repository, hook it up to the main branch, and let's connect and sync. And keep in mind, I just saved this as a PBIX earlier, actually. So this is going to show you what it looks like when you do Git workspace integration, how that exports to TMDL. So let's go on over. Everything is synced up. So we go over here to the repository. Everything should be in TMDL now. Looks a little ugly without the syntax highlighting, but don't worry, we're going to fix that real soon. But yeah, we go back to the repository. I'm just going to grab this here so I can clone it to desktop. Or you could go directly to clone in VS Code. I just want to show off this experience just with command prompt. So let me just go ahead and let's see. All right, so I'm going to do git clone right here. Let's see, request return. Let's try the actual clone with VS Code feature instead then. We'll go over to TMDL extension, and let's set this as a repository destination. All right, perfect. We've got a repository. Let's open up the semantic model. And I have the TMDL extension enabled, so now you can see the entire syntax highlighting over here. Everything all good so far, Steve? Everyone following along?
Yeah, definitely. Looks really, really cool.
Perfect, yeah. Yeah, the first thing to notice is that, I mean, actually, I'm in dark mode, but this also does apply with light mode. So let me just quickly switch and show you exactly what that looks like. You can literally just go to theme, color theme. I'm on dark modern right now. Let's just switch to light modern. It's a little blinding in my opinion, but you know, some folks like this one. No shame in that. The coloring there is still pretty good looking, but yeah. You're in the few who does. Okay. Well, Steve, we can keep it in this, but if you don't mind, I actually it is quite bright actually in my eyes. I'm going to switch it back to dark mode actually. Let's see, theme. Oh, wrong one. Try this again. Preferences, theme, color, dark modern. All right, perfect. In fact, my eyes are thanking me. So here we see everything laid out. We've got our top level table objects. We've got our child column objects, and we've got the properties attached to them. And we have a lot of metadata here that should look somewhat familiar. The lineage tags are their own little thing, but everything else is something that you could probably identify as belonging to a different column as part of the metadata for a column. For example, data type here. Let's just look at the country column, for example. It's a string. Of course, we have countries as strings. There's nothing really to summarize the country by, and that's the source column country. And this annotation right here is just showing you what the summarization is automatically set by. So these are all things that you're going to see with the columns here. But Steve, something's looking a little off about this table right here. There's something missing. Any idea what that is?
Sure. Why don't you tell me?
It's kind of something that that makes Power BI Power BI. That makes your semantic models a little special. It's measures. So we need to add some measures to our model here, and that's a perfect use case for TMDL. If you think about it, it's just a simple matter of starting to write. So we just say measure. Let's think of a measure to add here. So I see that we have some sales columns, COGS, and profit. Yeah, let's do a total. Let's declare an explicit measure. Let's do a total sales. So it's as simple as total sales equals sum x of financials and financials sales. And this is just because that's what the column looks like here. To be exact here, you can actually just copy and paste it. Perfect. And let's actually add a format string here to put it in the appropriate format that we want to see. And if you didn't catch that real quick, I literally just copy pasted from another file. That makes it a lot easier. And you can do things like that in TMDL. You can take pieces from other files and quickly put them in. It's part of the reusability component. So we have our first measure here. But I got to write some more measures. I don't want just this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste it. We're going to do it like a developer does it, which is we're just going to copy it, select what we need to select, and make those modifications accordingly. And we'll make this one COGS, total COGS. Let's just make sure everything lines up there. We've got sales, COGS, and profit. Should be good to go. All our format strings ready to go. So yeah, we've got our measures right here. And it was super simple. If we want to also see what properties are available that we could add to these measures, again, just a control space, and we have all of our object properties that we could potentially add. So super cool stuff here, but maybe I want to add some more measures. Let's also do some averages, but it's kind of a pain to do it myself. So let's bring in a little assistant to do it for us. Let's go over here and enable GitHub Copilot. And let's ask it. Let's see how well it does on this. So I'm going to bring up the interpreter. I'm going to say create measures to calculate the average sales, profit, and COGS. I'm going to ask it also to use the average function. Perfect, much better. So yeah, it's as simple as that. And I have another prompt. I have other prompts here that I could use potentially. I can ask it to create a measure all the columns where the summarized by is sum, just to declare everything that we actually want to see summarized by sum as an explicit measure. So you have another column here that's missing before, discounts, for example. You see total discounts. But yeah, now we've made some edits to the model. Let's just see what this looks like taken up to service. So we will go over to the source control tab here, and let's take a quick look at those diffs again, just to make sure everything is in order. All right, so let's look over here at the TMDL. All we see is that we've added a bunch of measures. Nothing else has changed here. And everything looks to be good because we have no error diagnostics throwing us a flag. Now, let's just say, for example, that we just wanted to introduce an error. Let's call this a data type without missing an E. We'll say that a data type, we'll call it I don't know, we'll just call it something that doesn't actually belong here. Let's call it a date. Date is not a data type. Date time is a data type. You see, these are errors that you can actually view in this problems pane here. You can actually view the exact problem here. And you can also go right over here and see all the problems in the project that you're looking at. This could be across files. This could be within the same file. You can just jump straight to each one. So let's just fix what we want to fix here. So this goes back to string. This goes to data type and E. Problems are gone now. So we can go back over and sync this up with our workspace. Let's go to source control. Let's bring up this. Let's stage these. So we're going to be working in the typical Git workflow where we stage our changes and then we commit them. So let's say add useful measures as our commit. And then we got this button here, sync changes. And once we hit this, we'll be syncing to the Git workspace that is connected in Azure DevOps to the actual Power BI workspace. So the moment I hit this, we can begin the full workflow where, after this is done, shift back over here. Let's just verify that everything did sync up. Last change just now. Sounds promising to me. And if we go over here and click the source control tab, you see that we have an update pending here. If we click update all, then we go over to the semantic model and we can see that we have our measures listed under the model as well. So this is just the overall general walkthrough of just kind of the whole experience of syncing up your workspace to a Git workspace, having it export your model representation as TMDL, working with the TMDL and VS Code with the power of the extension, with the Git integration built in, with the GitHub Copilot, syncing it back to the workspace. And really, you can just see how anywhere in this general format, you can set up your own team semantic model workflows, where you can just make the edits in code, sync them back up, and those edits will appear in service. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to go into deeper on anything else in particular, but thanks, Steve. This is basically the general gist of what I want to show.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. We can come back on camera now. Very, very cool demo. I think I see a few comments here. Again, please head over to the Analytic Endeavors YouTube if you want to add some comments. One thing we do have from one of our partner sites is asking about what licensing is necessary to work with it.
To work with the extension?
The extension,
oh,
I think, maybe
Git
and all of that stuff.
Oh, I see. About the Power BI licensing in particular.
Yeah. So what's licensing, and maybe for each part, what licensing is needed?
Yes, yes. For the TMDL extension, there's no license required whatsoever. It's simply just go to the VS Code Marketplace, go to the Extensions tab in your Visual Studio Code, and just go ahead and download. The TMDL extension is free to work with, and there's no licensing requirements whatsoever. If you think about it, it really is only a client-side application. So you won't need any connection to service as of right now to go ahead and use it. So even if you don't have any Power BI licenses whatsoever, you can actually just follow the save as PBIP format and work with your PBX files instead of PBIPs and just work with everything locally. You don't even need to sync up to Git. In terms of actually working with Fabric Git workspaces, I believe that requires a premium capacity or a Fabric trial.
Excellent. And to be clear, obviously that's just to sync, right, with Fabric to your your Git. Obviously, you can still work in Git, without syncing it with the PBIP, and if you have GitHub or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can. The extension is not gated to any particular license at all. So working with the extension, working with PBIP is something that you can do today as a free user.
That is very, very cool, I think. And maybe, there's some of us who might not have used Git as much. What would you say in your views, some of the main advantages of using Git, especially with a tool like TMDL?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that actually generalizes to working in any team in a development environment, development scenario. Basically, what Git allows you to do is two main things. That's version control, so tracking the exact history of changes, exactly who gave you what, who made what changes, when they were made, the storage of the specific versions of your code or of whatever files you're looking at any given point in history for any change or for any time period. And the collaboration aspect is Git allows you to work in teams where you can manage changes so that they don't cause conflicts with each other. Basically, by having the exact versions available and having the ability to, have this master copy, basically, that you're making edits to, to copies of that master copy, and then you're able to sync them up together. This is all part of the Git workflow management. It just helps you make sure that your team is working in a way that you gate the development scenario to exactly how you want it to be done. There's plenty of resources online, and I'd be happy to share some more about how to get started with Git. But if it does seem like something you're interested in tracking changes, working with your team and making sure that your team is not running into each other's paths while they're working, I highly recommend that you learn or start to learn or explore Git and explore working in a version control scenario. So Git and version control, those are the two things to look up.
Yeah, very, very cool. And something that you showed there was that, to be able to see the changes between what you're doing compared to the published. I know personally, I've thought maybe I've just added a few measures, but I've forgotten that when I was testing, I deleted a column or deleted something that I only realized a lot later down the line. So just that, and it's a very, I don't think you need to learn any special skills to understand the diff compares, because they're very intuitive in my opinion as well. So having a language now like TMDL, which makes that very readable and easy to see what you've changed and to make sure you're only changing exactly what you need to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way I see it is, the collaborative scenario, while it's incredibly powerful and super cool, you can work with a much more intuitive version control scenario, literally just tracking the history of your changes and understanding what differences have you added or taken away from your model from version to version, or from your code version to version. That's very intuitive. And like you said, viewing the diffs exactly there, just going into your repository and just looking at the former versions, that's going to be very intuitive and easy to understand and pick up.
Yeah. And to me, I think the other thing that I saw, just adding those measures, I've had a list before of long measures, which were quite repetitive, maybe a slightly different filter on each one. I know copying and pasting them into Power BI Desktop takes a little while. It can be difficult, but being able just to copy and paste and all the tools you get in a code editor, I think that's a really amazing feature in my mind.
Absolutely. And there's so many extensions on the Visual Studio Marketplace for you to play around with and to add even more functionality. It really is an amazing platform to be working on. And that's why we wanted to put the TMDL extension up there, so that as a developer, you can work with things in the environment that is most familiar to you and that you have tons of tools on.
Yeah. And I think, there's a lot of possibilities here. And I think it definitely has me thinking on being able to edit code like this. It's very nice, obviously, to have Power BI Desktop. I think it's quite an intuitive tool, but to have that option as well, to have code. And to me, I see this playing, with just another tool in the arsenal. So things like, obviously, if you've used Tabular Editor, all of those, I think definitely continue to use because they all play with this. So it's another way of being able to automate, being able to write stuff. And I think those Copilot together comments is definitely something that I'm going to be taking advantage of. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other interesting applications of that.
There will be. And that's the beauty of it, which is that we'll keep finding new applications for a technology that just has endless possibilities. So yeah, I'm super excited to see what happens.
Me too. And I think, I can see a lot of automation in this. So there's a couple of sides here, just very easy editing without having to open desktop, the source control, and then just that automation and that quick use of things like Copilot and editors. And the syntax highlighting, I'll say, is very, very nice. I've opened if you've ever opened TMDL in code editor, you'll see it's very difficult to understand. TMDL was a huge step forward, and now this is even a bigger step forward in terms of readability.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, just looking at the previous TMDLs, your model.bim files, it's a night and day difference, really, with what we're doing with TMDL here. So I'm super excited that we have this out now and that we have a lot of experiences on the way working with it that will just make your lives easier as developers. And that will really unlock the full potential that people have in working with Power BI development scenarios.
So are you able to share anything cool that's coming up or anything we should be looking out for?
Ooh, yeah, that's, so this is just the beginning of the extension. This is not a complete version. So the more features will be added, and these are specifically going to be features as we hear from you and everyone in the community about what's important to you and what scenarios will really help you unlock your best productivity and work with your semantic models. That's what we're going to use to prioritize our development roadmap for the extension. In terms of what's coming to Power BI Desktop, I probably shouldn't. Let's just say that things are on the horizon, which are going to be very interesting, specifically in the realm of scripting and automation.
Excellent. That's really exciting to hear, and I know it's been something the community's been asking for a long time. And as I said earlier, in the last year or so, this really seems like it's been given a lot of priority by Microsoft. So it's really nice to hear that. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, I do want to reiterate that this is something that we on the Power BI team are very much investing in going forward, and is these experiences for developers, because we understand that developers are unlocking the way for all our other users too. It's by helping you all and helping the development community, we really are encouraging the growth of Power BI. And that is something that we're reflecting in what we're doing with these developer experiences.
Yeah, I really love those developer experiences as much as I use Power BI Desktop itself to still do a lot of this stuff. Once you start getting into some of this, and even if you have a fear of code or anything like that, it's with these cool tools like the extension, makes it a lot easier and quite friendly and easy to use, as we saw in that demo. And I think you can just really increase the productivity and just make your life as a developer so much easier.
Absolutely. These experiences really are just built to, even though they are for developers, we want to make it so that it is easy for aspiring developers or people who are interested in working with just the code to quickly onboard and get used to it. And that's kind of why TMDL is as readable and easy to edit as it is, why everything is laid out so clearly, and why we're going to have many published guides from us and from the community out there to help people get started.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I'm very excited, and we'll definitely keep in touch and be following on all the cool updates that you bring out. So very, very cool demo. I think you blew a few minds with some of the amazing features and cool possibilities that you've opened up there.
Absolutely. I'm glad to have been on here. Thanks so much, Steve. And thanks to Analytics Endeavors and for Reed as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Sid from Microsoft. And have a great day. And we'll speak to everyone soon.
Take care.